Bob, welcome to Locked In, brother. You walked in this door today and you got so much energy. The audience is going to love you.
That's the way we roll, brother. Man, I got a passion for life.
Yeah, thanks so much for reaching out, man, and making the drive out here, and to your friend that drove you today, which was a former inmate
Jake.
under you. That's incredible, to see that. You don't really see that in today's world,
Right.
But it's so cool to see, and I'm very grateful you made the journey today.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Like I said to Jake on the phone the other day, I said, I retired 10 years ago. When I left 25 years in corrections, not many COs were friends, and none of them were good friends. And today, 10 years later, I'm best friends, brothers, with a lot of guys that did some serious time. And then when I worked as just doing recovery groups and stuff at the local jail and stuff, some of the guys I met there that I'm good friends with them. I got their back, man. I believe passion can change a life, and we'll see, but I'm a perfect example of that.
And now you got me as a friend too, another
Oh,
felon.
you fucking dude, you ain't seen nothing. You're going to get sick of me.
No, we're good.
I'll
man.
have you doing Ironmans, running the Boston Marathon.
I've always wanted to run a marathon, honestly.
Let's roll, brother.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I don't know
I'll
if I
get you
can
there.
make the whole one, but
I said that too. I started Ironmans when I worked for corrections, and I knew my career was coming to an end, and I was going to be out of work for 9 months, pending investigation. But I said, I want to do an Ironman. I asked my buddy and the recovery guy, and I said, could I do one of those things? And he said, of course you can. You're fucking crazy. You can do anything. And I'm like, I'm afraid of water. I'm the youngest of five. My brothers used to try to drown me in a freaking cup of water if they could. But I wouldn't go in the water above my neck. And I don't know how to swim. And some of my guys taught me, my buddies and sober guys and all that. And next thing you know, I'm banging out the laps at the pool. I can't count. How many yards was that? And I just did it. And that was 12 years ago. And I've done 8 full Ironmans, a whole bunch of shorter ones and everything. And needless to say, I think I've talked to everybody that does Ironman triathlon. I've met them one way or another, and in their families. But I just got a fucking passion for life, man. And I'm here to talk about the guys that gave me that.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Melrose, just outside of Boston, real small town, dry town, no booze, but there's a lot of legends that came out of Melrose, and you could go to Maine and out in the woods and say you're from Melrose, and they're, please, we don't want any trouble, And it wasn't, kind of funny that not many people that I went to school with or knew growing up ended up in the can. A lot of dead, a lot of knives, guns, naturally overdoses, suicides, car accidents, motorcycle accidents. The first one was probably, I think it was 15, 16. And that was the beginning of it. And it was just and then when the drugs come on scene, it took my brother and tons of my best friends and close friends and all that. But that is what it is, but.
Were your parents together growing up?
Yeah, it's back in the 60s and in the 70s, the Big Bad Bruins, they were together. And from what I gather from my brothers, and I'm the youngest, my sister and my brothers, that I was let's try to save the marriage with another one. And I came along, so needless to say, it didn't work. We had a big house. It was always full of people partying. The Bruins games were on. Sunday afternoons, everyone's drinking and raising hell. And, my mother was, she was cool with everybody. My father was never around. He was, back then, he was a ladies' man, I think, and same as me, no education. Right. But he had the heart. He gave me that, thank God. But yeah.
What'd they do for work, your parents?
My father was a fireman in Melrose. And back then they were hardcore, man. They were smoke eaters. They just ran into buildings. And I remember when he died from cancer, and he's like, we didn't wear those masks. Come on, you run into a building, you grab something. If you think it's a person or a TV or whatever, you come out and puke and then run back in. And so he was really active in the fire department, active in the union. became an alderman, and then further on down the road, he jack of all trades, a police commissioner, thank God, kept me out of jail. But and my mother was, stay at home. I think the pills and all that stuff there just kind of, I was full of chaos on the inside, but people on the outside thought it was all good.
Did you guys grow up struggling or wanting more because only one parent worked?
Not really. No, it wasn't like nowadays with kids have phones and everything else. If I remember going to the grocery store and putting bags in people's cars for them, and they give me a tip. That's how I bought my first mini bike, right? And it was a little bit older. You want drinking money, you save your lunch money. You don't spend money in school, and maybe cut a lawn or two. And there was money was never handed out in my house to any of us. You wanted something, you just figured out a way to get it.
It was a different world back then.
Oh yeah,
drinking age was 18, right? Back then.
Drinking age was 18. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And I had a fake ID when I was 16, and then again, my family and my girlfriend at the time that eventually actually became my wife, who's, thank you God for her patience. But
wait, that was your high school sweetheart? You became
yes,
your wife? We love a good love story.
So growing up like that, 7th grade, big bad Bruins. I played hockey, but I sucked. Right, I'd fight guys on my own team, and then I always watched my brothers and all of their friends. 7th grade, within a week, I found the pretty girl down the end at the lockers, and big boobs, blonde hair. I fell in love, right? And it turns out her brothers, I knew them. They would, they hung around my house and stuff. And like she was, people used to say we looked alike, right? And looked like brother and sister. And, very long, years and years later, she's always been instrumental in my life. At 16, I got thrown out of school, and she was, I was trying to be a Balfour legend, ladies' man, friggin' Hugh Hefner in Melrose Middle School. But, I didn't know any better, and that's what my father and brothers did. But she disappeared, went to college, comes from a real family, legit. And when I got sober at 26, she ran into one of my buddies and, did you hear about Bobby? And she's like, oh no, what? He's dead. No, he's sober. He's in AA, right? And she ended up calling me. She was out with her friends, college friends, I think, having a few or whatever. And, one thing led to another. I was down. She was teaching in Rockport and living at her sister's house for the summer on the beach. And I said, I'll be down tomorrow morning. And I jumped on my motorcycle and rode down there and never left. And, it's, she's the exact opposite of me. Everyone's like, God bless her. She got a front row seat in heaven for putting up with you. And, man, it's a very, very special relationship where I couldn't read or write when I got sober. I couldn't cross the street without screwing it up. And she friggin' took me in and held my hand and taught me everything. And 2 beautiful daughters now in their 30s. They'll never leave home, right? The 4 of us are all best friends, and like they tolerate me, I guess. But
they live at the same house as you?
Oh, yeah.
You're okay with that?
Fuck yeah. They're good kids.
Yeah,
I broke the cycle. They're not like my brothers were,
That's true. Yeah.
And we got big German Shepherd. They take care of it. It's like, that's my Rocky, all black. It's the second one we've had.
What do they think about you doing this show?
They just shake their head. Like, you're a fucking nut. You're crazy, right? And they know my whole background, and they've had friends in school and stuff like that they were like, they got the call. Suki's in trouble. We had this exchange student. It's a whole nother story. But, she was, she had a problem. And we got to take care of Suki. And it's still today. All these years later, she's married. She has kids. But, if Suki's got a problem, or Brandy, who came from a Charlestown family or whatever, and, she got no place to live, bring her home. And my daughters are like, they got it from me that they're caring. They give a shit, but they were never partiers. My girls are never they know all about it. And they're perfect citizens in this crazy world. which is, for me, I broke the cycle. That's not, again, the way I grew up. And it's awesome. I give my wife gets all the credit, because she brought me up and my daughters, but, it's, and like talking to Jake on the way down, my house is a home, right? I grew up in a house, which was okay. There was no love. Not, that word was never used, but we got the four of us. Love is used. They know, like, even they screw with me all the time and fucking harass me and make me move the cars and clean the snow. They love me, and again, that's one more, like, my gratitude is like, you got to be shitting me. I shouldn't even be alive. And I got these two little kids that are, that just do live such awesome lives.
Was college ever a thought for you at all? Like, did your parents push you for it?
College?
Yeah.
Oh my God, no. I didn't
No, I know you didn't know how to read or write, but did you ever think about it? Like, was there ever a want for it?
I remember my father and mother saying, if any of us kids want to go to college, they'll pay for it. But I was in like 7th grade, maybe, and like I didn't even know people partied in college until years later. And I got thrown out of middle school, and I wasn't a punk, I wasn't a troublemaker, but I always found my girlfriend, right? And, if like talked people into skipping school, I got my brothers to buy for us, we can go to my house and, but I'd always be back at 2:30 in the afternoon to meet my girlfriend or whoever, and, drunk. And it just like, he's a good kid, but he just like, he never goes to school. We got to get him out of here, And so college was out. I just kind of bounced around middle school, in 7th, 8th grade. But when they put you up to high school, and my oldest brother was a football player, man about town, and he went on to work in politics with the president, with Bush and all that stuff. But my brother Jackie, who's no longer here because of drugs and all that stuff, the principal grabbed me in my first week or two in high school, and this guy he was an asshole, right? And people, he liked who he liked, and he didn't like me. But he said, if you think you're going to be like your fucking brother, I'll have you out of here. And he's talking to me, and he's getting spit on me and everything. And I'm like, whoa, I'm just a good kid that like skipped school. I'm not, my brother Jackie's a nut. He'd beat anybody up, right? And he was just an alien. But within, 2 weeks, I'm thrown out of school, and at first he accused me, he had a bag of weed. He said he saw me selling it, and I wasn't. I was still a kid, really. And 2 weeks later, I'm in his office. My father's in the office. I'm leaving, and that's it. And I didn't want to. I actually have nightmares about that, maybe every year or so, of walking across out in front of the school with nowhere to go. There's no cars, there's no people, nothing's moving. But I want, like, I guess I took my father's advice we got you a job. This guy didn't want me there, and, he was buddy, sucking up to my father. And, but it was bad. And if I played hockey or football, and I'll get into that part later, because one of the football players turned into a whatever. But, it was, I got cheated out of an education. I was barely old enough to get thrown out, ADD, all that stuff. And they just get this kid out of here because he's going to, recruit people every single day to fuck off. And, so whatever. I moved on, went to work for the highway department where more shit happened.
Do you regret not getting an education looking back on it? I know everything turned out well in the end for you, but looking back on it, is that something you wish you could change?
Yeah. Because again, I didn't know. There was no such thing as ADD back then, or special ed or anything like that. And someone should have grabbed me and said, listen, you're skipping school. You're like, we're going to fix this one way or the other, But, it got so bad, like I'd stay home probably 4 days out of the week. And my mother was working at the time. They'd call at 9 o'clock, the truant officer. My mother would pick up, yep, he's sitting right here. What do you want me to do with him? and hang up, and then she'd go to work, and I'd go out and do, whatever. And so, yeah, I wish I was cheated out of an education. I ended up taking the GED 2 or 3 times and just whacked out. And it's been a struggle all along, my going into corrections, I had a GED, which is whatever, but if I had college education, I would get more money in my pension now. Would have helped with my promotions when I got my addictions license, counseling license, my LADAC. It would help with that. I would be in a, business-wise, I'd be in a different place, money-wise probably, but I learned the fucking hard way, and it's been tough. It's like a lot of struggle, a lot of frustration, because, it's been tough. If I had a chance to do it again, would have put me right into a vocational school and said, we'll friggin' lock you in there. You're not going anywhere, And if a teacher took an interest in me, I would have been fine.
Now, most of the correctional officers we've had on the show were, outstanding citizens or people that couldn't become cops and became correctional officers or wanted to get into corrections. And I think very few times we hear those law enforcement stories where they were pretty much going down a bad path and something miraculously happened to put them on track. And I think that's so inspirational to the former inmates and even maybe their parents or loved ones and law enforcement in general who might be, kind of scared about their past and talking about it, which is why I think, you sharing with the audience what was happening in your life before you got into corrections is so powerful.
Right. I just, like when I left school, I went to work for the state, the highway department and the park department and stuff, and they teamed me up with my brother Jackie, who was the craziest person to ever walk the streets of Massachusetts. And the two of us together, we were like nuts. And we'd steal, you'd have a new picnic table out here. You didn't even want it, right? And I remember like in 6th grade, him and all the workers would come over our house and drink during the day. And like I'd skip school to go with them. And we had a big rack body truck. We were stealing picnic tables and we're driving around giving them away to people, And so that, just like, that's the path I ended up on. I put all my eggs in my brother's basket because my father was never really there back then. And if I followed my other brother, who knows where I would have gone, But I like my path is in my brother Jackie's, who, he went down very hard. But, and I went on to, so I worked for the state. And then you don't get fired from these jobs, and I did. City of Malden, I worked there in the traffic department late at night, painting lines in the street. They were doing downtown Malden over, and there was one street that I put lines down the middle of it, and it was a one-way street. I turned it into a two-way, right? And like the chief of police, who was a friend of my father's that gave me the job, he come in the next day like, what the fuck did you do? And then it was like, don't let him use the paint machine, right? And so I did that. Then like my poor father, trying to do the best, he calls me up one day, you're going to be a correction officer. What do they do? Prison guard. Where? The Cambridge jail and Bill Ricker, Sheriff's Department. What do I do? I'm like, man, I got fucking a lot of shit going on, man. I was hanging around with a motorcycle club and I had a stolen Harley, whatever, and I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do there? And like, I'm going to go straight, right? And it didn't last. But I went to work at the jail, like as naive as can be going in there. I knew, like I loved crazy people and the Hellraisers, but I didn't know there was a con side to it, right? So I went in there and I hit it off with a few guys from South Boston, and they were doing time. Tommy, who's an interesting guy that ended up doing a real lot of time. But so I was only there for 7 or 8 months. They did a shakedown once. I found a handcuff key and they ripped it up, right? And I wrote the report, right? Barely able to write. And they ripped it up. So, like, you'll never write a report again. So needless to say, I was escorted off the property, and it was highly suggested that I forget I ever worked there. And, it's back up a little bit. The guys I hung with, I was a lot younger, and that's where my crystal meth obsession came from. So these guys, they used to make it, they'd give it to me and do whatever you want with it, right? And just, if you sell some, give us some money. And one of the top guys in the club took a gun. I was probably 17, 18, and he put a gun right up my face, right? And he said, if I ever catch you with a fucking needle in your arm, I'll kill you, right? And I'm going to do it for your family. And I always remembered that, right? And like these guys looked out for me. They respected my father. He was a police commissioner, and he respected them, kind of looked out for him like a movie. But back to the sheriff's department, and I had to go back to that. My first night there, I hit it off with another CO. We're talking, blah, blah, blah. I smoke weed a little bit. Oh, yeah, me too. I did coke at a wedding once. Oh, yeah, me too, right? Within an hour, it's like, I'm going to make a phone call, going to get an 8-ball dropped off out front, And
wait, you got an 8-ball dropped off?
Oh, yeah.
And so what do you guys say? You're just going outside to do a line?
Yeah. We'd go down, we'd bring it in. And they put us, we would be legless walking. And it was different times back then with the sheriff's department. That sheriff ended up getting some federal time himself. But, I didn't know, and like, they put us together. Like, we'd work 4 to midnight, and then there was another dude, a black dude with us, Mike, and he would drink vodka by the quart, like, bad. And we'd be legless walking into that place. And, thank God I got out of there alive or whatever. But, I was over this, the other CO's house 6 or 7 months into the job there. And now I'm thinking of the guy that told me, no needles, right? Or we'll kill you. And that's kind of like where I learned the beginning of my respect. But here I am now. I got with my buddy Timmy, who died last year. But I got my uniform, my name tag, my badge, American flag, right? And he's like, just try shooting it once, right? 3 a.m, I got my sleeve rolled up, and he's hitting me with some coke, right? And a known very bad actor told me not to do that shit. And here I am now with a cop. Oh yeah, it's okay, And thank God I didn't like it. I always remembered what this guy told me, to don't fuck with that stuff. And I never did. But kind of a crazy where the bad guys tell me not to do something, and the good guys, supposedly good guys, are telling me it's okay, So yeah, when I left there, it was a nightmare. Huge embarrassment. It didn't make the papers, and they threatened. But, I said, it's up to my father. I don't know if I want to fight this or not. And my father being, the enabler, he's like, we're going to fight this. I'm like, Dad, no, right? We're not going to fight this. And I had to take a lie detector and everything. It was crazy. And, it's like after the lie detector, I admitted to bringing drugs in for other staff members, not for, the inmates. But, me and my father and this kid, Timmy, went over to Dorchester across from the Erie pub. And I went upstairs on the second floor of this place, and there were 2 retired state troopers that gave me a lie detector test. And then we walked back, 5 questions. We walked back next door, and the trooper looked at my father. He goes, Dave, retired trooper, Dave, your son, can't tell if he's lying or telling the truth. He's a fucked up kid, and it was the drugs. I was, and needless to say, that's where my love affair with addiction, crystal meth, stole my passion for Harley Davidsons and fast bikes and, the brother stuff and all that. It might be a good thing or a bad thing, but, I didn't take that avenue. But I learned it back then that, you listen to the real people, and so yeah, that short trip in corrections didn't last. I was still a probationary guy. So they said, just get him out of here, man, And problem was solved. And it just goes on. I got another job. I existed for another probably 5 or 6 years, just doing the meth, trying to ride, trying to do whatever. I had a broken Harley, a stolen Harley, a broken shotgun, right? A triple beam scale that was wrong. And, I was struggling trying to have that big comeback, and needless to say, it didn't happen until, should I keep going?
Yeah, you're on a roll.
Yeah, it didn't happen. And, that just a lot of lonely nights. Then I had a little room. Again, my motorcycle was like, don't ride that around here. Don't leave town because your father, if you get stopped somewhere else, your old man won't even get you out of that. And so I ended up in a room just totally depressed, scared, lonely, very paranoid to the max, and afraid to leave my room. I'd go out for 4 or 5 days on the meth bender, drinking, sniffing that shit, and like loving it, right? And then I'd go back, and it'd take me 2 or 3 days just to fall asleep. I'd lay there, and all these people doing the methadone and all this shit now, it's like, I used to kick crystal meth once a month, man. And like, that was bad. I'd shitting and shaking and paranoid and staring at the ceiling and afraid to leave my room. And like, it was like, that was cold turkey for a couple of years straight, once a month or so. But Dad came to the rescue again and got me a job at General Electric in Lynn. Late night shift, sweeping floors. I was paranoid, and Lynn is all, GE is all Lynn people that work there. So I was an outsider. And I'm paranoid, so they probably thought I was undercover or something. I'm sneaking around, looking around machines and everything, trying to sweep the floor. And like, I just didn't fit in. I was fucked up. And thank God there was one guy there that would listen to me. And Sully, and I'd stand there and he's just whacked out on meth, bending his ear, talking, and he mentioned something about, the guy I shared a locker with, I drank with, Rich, like big secret around GE. Rich went to the ranch. Fucking ranch? What are you talking about? Right? And it went on, and I'm like, Sully, what's the ranch? Where did Rich go? He's at the ranch, right? No idea. But Sully says, he goes, no, it's a place in New Hampshire. You dry out there. It's a rehab, 28-day program. Never heard of it. He goes, oh my God, they got broads there. The chef cooks prime rib on weekends. They got boats, freaking fishing, everything, right? They got a gym. I'm like, really? He goes, you want to go? I'm like, but for what? Why? Right? It's for alcoholics and drug addicts. I'm like, I don't have a problem, and like, I just didn't know, right? And he said he could make a phone call to the EAP guy, which I didn't know what that was. At like 3 a.m, he called, and I'm like, if you can call someone at 3 a.m., they're on the shit too. I want to meet that guy, right? And 2 or 3 hours later, I'm at home, actually at my brother's house, and his wife was, I think she was pregnant, and I'm going to the ranch. And I'm like, Rita, what the fuck is the ranch? No, right? And they called and they said, you ready to go? I'm like, no, I got to call my mother. And the guy goes, when was the last time you talked to her? I don't know, a couple months ago, I could do laundry. He goes, we'll do your laundry for you. And the next thing you know, a van pulls up outside with this freaking big, tall guy. He looked like McLovin, plus another 6'8" inches, right? Big, tall guy with a yellow sweater. And he's like, how you doing? I'll carry your bag. I'm like, fucking get out of here. What's going on? And he had a minivan, and I was terrified. And my brother's wife was dying laughing. It's for the better. It's for the better. And I had never heard of it, right? I never heard of AA, NA, God, 12 steps, nothing. No idea. And they could have taken me to some cult in Waco, Texas, and I would have I guess.
You couldn't even spell the letters on paper.
Yeah, right. No way, right? And I get in the van, And in the front seat, there's this fucking guy on the floor that looks at me, right? And his glasses are on sideways, and there's a bunch of nips on the dashboard. And he goes, "How you doing?" "I'm rolling." He goes, "You want a nip?" And I'm a beer drinker. If I drank Jack Daniels maybe a dozen times in my life, and it ended up ugly. So I just drank meth, Coke, beer. That was me. And so nips, I go, I don't know. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a beer drinker. And the guy driving's like, "Oh, there's a liquor store down the street, right? I'll get you a 6-pack or two." When he gets me a 6-pack of Bud Talls, and we were off on our way to the ranch up in Sunapee, New Hampshire, in the middle of February. It was 38 years ago. Today is when I got out, right? And I went in that place, and like 2 or 3 girls. The lake was frozen. There was nothing on it, right? No boat, they had the prime rib. They had a fireplace, and they're doing groups, and I'm like, I never even watched this shit on TV. And they, "Come on in, Bob." I'm like, "No, I'm all set, And like, I don't know what their method was, but they got me. And I just kind of stayed on the outskirts. It was a lot of people from GE and Lynn. And I just watched like what they were doing. And they said, "Ask for help." Like, whatever, right? So I asked my roommate, like, "Who do I ask? Like, am I supposed to ask you to help me?" And he's a Portuguese guy missing 2 fingers. He goes, "No, you're stupid. You go, you're on the floor. You go like this. You're God." Yeah, I'm like, "Huh? God?" I thought this was a cult, right? And so whatever, I just kind of rolled with it, ignored it, did a couple of groups, and like he's been over 10 years. I had never, last sport I played was hockey. And so I'm in there, and my escape was going to be in the middle of freaking February in a snowstorm. I'm going out for a run, right? And like, I never ran. I didn't, and there was a little parking lot. Someone told me, "Oh yeah, 14 times around is a half mile or whatever." And like anything but these groups, I went out there and I'm running around, right? And I probably did twice. And I go back and say, "Oh my God, I just did a run," And I had work boots on and jeans, and it was comical. But, I fast forward, I stayed with running. I've run all over the world and blah, blah, blah. But, we went in there and they talked about God a little bit, right? And you don't have to have a God. And I said, I'll have one. Where do you get them, And GOD, group of drunks, right? And if millions of people around the world can stay sober by getting together in meetings and, talking about it and kind of building on it, group of drunks is God. I'm like, I'll buy that, right? So I used that for a while. And someone in there said, my counselor said, ask God for a positive attitude and a grateful heart. Now, those were like Harvard level words to me, right? Gratitude, positive, like whatever, But I did, and I still do today. I think that pretty much made me who I am, what I am. I got out, and it was, I went to like a couple of those meetings, right? It was okay. Some women there, so I'm like, I'm good with that. Bring me another one. And they had cookies and all that shit. I'm like, oh yeah, they got cookies, right? But, I just kind of showed up, and I went out. The kid that I was in the rehab with called me, and I was just started pumping iron, right? And like, I couldn't lift the friggin' bar, but a kid called me. I was at the YMCA lifting, and this kid, he couldn't have called me because they didn't have cell phones, but somehow I ended up talking to him, and I said, yeah, I'll meet you in Lynn. And I went over there, and he had a half ounce of Coke with his buddy that had a 357, and his buddy was a fucking whack job. And here we are sneaking around his buddy's parents' basement for probably, 16, 18 hours. This kid wants to shoot people. He wants to shoot me, and we're smoking the Coke. I don't even like smoking the shit, but I'm in. And, so I kind of relapsed and bounced around for about 9 months, but that call came in from my 7th grade girlfriend, which was probably key, that, was to have somewhat of a normal person in my life. And, so I, going to meetings, they said, get a sponsor, right? And a little bit touchy-feely for me, I thought, but, get a sponsor that has what you want. And I wanted a Harley. I wanted a girlfriend quick, right? Maybe she's got an apartment and a couple of kids or whatever. But, I met this guy, Old Man Bill, and he was probably in his 50s, smoked a pipe, had white hair, white beard. He skied all over the world. He drove a race car, just a nice guy. And he had a wife and a girlfriend, right? And I'm like, his girlfriend was probably 15 years younger than him. I'm like, that's the life that I want, right? And so I grabbed him as a sponsor. And again, he was very patient with me. And a couple months into it, he said, hey, do you want to work for the Department of Correction? And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Come on. Right. And I what happened, and no. And I said, I'm not even buying this AA shit yet. My gun is still at home. And I don't know. And he said, you got to give me the talk about, you got to take risks. You got to, think ahead, grow up. So I took him up on it. And next thing you know, I went to work as a maintenance man real quick at a drunk driving jail in Boston that was run by state DOC. And someone must have liked me because I took the correction officer's exam. I didn't do good, but they got me in, and they gave me, they didn't give me passing scores. They got to me on the list. And that started my whole career working in the Department of Correction.
Now, the state didn't check with the sheriffs to find out what...
It was never there. I was never convicted. I was never even, arrested. It was just hearsay of somebody said that kid's always doing coke and he's bringing coke for the other officers and, they're drinking on the job and all that. And
you didn't have to write that down as your past experience, or they just pushed it through?
No.
And the sheriffs never found out and said, hey, that guy got booted out of here?
Yeah. So the sheriff's departments in Mass were very, very crazy in the past. Most people that worked there back then, not most, but a lot of them had a father like I had that here, take care of my kid. He's too fucking stupid to be a cop or whatever. Here's a good place to get him a job. Basically babysit him. No academy, no training, nothing like that back then. And thank God they don't do that anymore. They're legit now. But back then there were ex-cons getting jobs, right, as COs. And, and that sheriff ended up going to jail. Great guy, everybody very well known in the Boston area with the Teamsters and all that. But
is he still alive?
No, he passed a couple of years ago.
Ah, well, I'd love to have him on the show.
Yeah. And he was a man to a lot of people, man. And I ran into him. Actually, he was in Federal Halfway House. And I had gotten sober and, working in corrections, and he called me to see if I can help him get the next step to another program, It's like, wow, it's kind of weird, You're calling me. And, but another sheriff, same county, he ended up killing himself. Jimmy DiPaolo, I knew him. And, ego all the way. It's an elected position. If you get elected, usually you're there for life. And he went in and just people handing him money all the time. Take care of my kid, do this, campaign. And that money used to be untraceable, and he was a Malden detective when my father was commissioner, actually, and I knew him back then. But he ran for senator or whatever, Senate in Massachusetts, and won that, and his ego blew up. Then he went for sheriff's department, and his ego blew up even more. He could, hire people. He was hiring friends. They were, good people that grew up with him, and then some other guy like my father would come along to put my kid, get my kid a job, and here's an envelope or whatever. He would fire his good friends or, transfer him out of good positions to put these other guys in. And he ended up killing himself in just before the feds locked in on him. He went up to a hotel room up in Maine and shot himself, killed himself. And, he didn't have to have alcoholism and drug addiction. He had ego, and he really worked that sheriff's department like an asshole, and like people that liked him and he liked them, they were great. But, if it was just so-so, he'd call you out in meetings. He'd embarrass the shit out of you. Just his ego would take over, and it was sad to see it go because he had a family and they ended up, he killed himself. They went to the house. They found money hidden in the walls in the basement. And, he left his wife and kids holding the bag for that, which is sad, and again, ego is one of the things I'm fucking terrified of, and because of stuff like that. But so anyways, old man Bill gets me a job in the sheriff's department, and I was totally clueless. So through my therapist and a lot of work and step work and shit, I realized, when I went to work for corrections, I was terrified of anyone with a suit and tie, right? Captains, lieutenants, fucking see you later. And I used to do swaps and just work weekends because I didn't like management. I was terrified of them, and that probably reflects back to the principal at the high school, an authority figure telling me, I'm going to fucking get you, right? And so a lot of shit like that went on in my head in early recovery, and I couldn't figure it out. But, as it went on, I transferred up to Concord and Concord Farm, which is a minimum security. Back then, they had the second degree. Life is in there. They were eligible for parole within a year or two and stuff. And so I went there, and again, I was very green as a CO, but I knew to keep my mouth shut about my past. And I was terrified to open up about, being an AA guy. Back then, COs didn't let, if you don't drink, man, you ain't hanging with us. We don't trust you. We don't want to trust you. And so I was, I used to think of these COs, man, if I ever took them drinking, I'd get them on that fucking crystal meth, man. We'd take that place over, and to me, they were amateurs when it came to drinking and partying and raising hell. But so who did I have? I had the guys, the cons, and a lot of long-term guys, a couple of bikers that, knew we talked bikes or whatever, and they kind of, they figured it out, I guess. And then some of the wise guys, some of the, very well-known killers from way back in the day, they somehow, they didn't take advantage of me, right? And where I was just a couple years sober, still a people pleaser, trying to fit in. I knew I couldn't fit in as, a super CO. I didn't have the smarts, first of all, to work my way up. But these guys didn't, they could have said, Bob, hey, here's the deal. You're sober, so you can do this, right? Transfer to Walpole, right? And you can bring guns in the back door. We'll make you rich. And I probably would have fallen for it. But thank God they didn't, And so they taught me all about, respect, and they were good with me. And I learned real quick of, what a piece of shit inmate would be and what, guys that just mind their own business. And I kind of was taught by them to just leave them alone, leave everybody alone, right? If you see something, do something, but don't fuck with these guys, and many times I'd be standing around and, and I've seen many great guys start off as correction officer and just disintegrate the first year or two, and I don't know if it's peer pressure or what, but you're standing there at the desk or whatever, and hey, can I get a bar of soap, right? And if Mr. Big Shot CEO is there, I'm going to say no, right? Mr. Big Shot, get the fuck out of here, right? And just, just respect the guy, right? And I just watch it. I took it all in, and I never took that route. I wasn't a follower to them. So the cons knew you need a bar of soap or you need, whatever you want to, get out and make a phone call after a lock-in or whatever. Bob's a good guy, right? And I didn't fall to the peer pressure. And the COs that were good guys were mostly the family men, right? I stuck with them. And in the cons, somehow my respect kind of started to move, and it wasn't planned. Trust me. You know, I was working there in the beginning. I'm lighting barrels on fire. I'm fucking raising hell. And these guys are like, Bob, you got to calm down, man, you know? And I got married my first year working there. And
what did she think of your job, your wife, when you met her?
What did she think of anything? How the fuck did she end up with me, right? You know? She believed in me, man, and it's like no one in my life did. But it was the first job I had where like the money went in the bank and stayed there, where I got vacation time and didn't use it right away, where I didn't call in sick like all the time. And so 3 to 11, it was like I was loyal to the department, showing up. I didn't fuck around, you know, and I think I needed that structure when I first got sober, right? And it's like you can't, you know, bring a package of coke in, or you'll get jammed up, right? You know, whatever. I did that already once, but you know, and you can't come in late, because if you do, you're relieving somebody that's going to be pissed off because you know. So I kind of learned from that. And when I first got that job, my father was working on getting me a job for the state, for the water department, where my brother Jackie had ended up transferring. And if I went with him, I wouldn't be alive today. No way, right? But corrections was the first job I ever got on my own. It was like I learned everything by going there, and I didn't, like, I would have fucking panic attacks going to work because the shift commander doesn't like me, and like, you know, or whatever. I would headaches, anxiety, and I didn't know what the hell it was. You know, I was sober. I was just, you know, new to this life. And, you know, but I just did it, and I went in, and you know, I started running the visiting room right up at the farm, and, you know, the girlfriends and the wives and the grandmothers would come in, and I'd be nice to them, and, you know, it's little Spanish grandma. It's like they used to be able to bring food in, right? And like, just pull your car all the way up, drive up the driveway. I'm not going to make you carry the bag from down the bottom of the hill and stuff like that. Just being nice to people. I'm sure the cons realize it, like, wow, he's a good guy, you know, where other officers would never do that, would never learn the names of the little Spanish kids running in the door and all that shit, raising hell. And I don't know, that kind of started again more of forming who I was going to become, right? And man, it was a long road, and working there was it was cool, you know. And there are some fantastic correction officers, you know. There's some real good guys that, you know. But some of the assholes are like the ringleaders, you know, and a new guy, if I'm, you know, a new officer is not going to answer your question, no matter something simple, with the bully next to him who's teaching him, right? See this kid coming, he's a fucking piece of shit, skin up, blah, 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 you know. And it's like, decide on your own, right? And so by kind of taking my own path, I got a lot of respect, and I didn't even know that's what it was. They gave me respect because I was giving them respect. And I have always said, like, it's kind of, even on the street with cops, it's like, who's going to reach out first? I'll respect you, but you got to respect me first, right? And I was a knucklehead that, yeah, what's up, you know? You know? And it worked for me. It brought me to who and what I am today. And again, it wasn't planned that way. But in DOC, I never ran into any trouble. You know, I was never afraid. There was no one. I never fucked with anybody. You know, I never, you know, I don't got the beat 'em up stories and all that shit. I was mostly minimum security for the most part. And
now, did you ever look at any of these inmates and think to yourself, wow, if my dad didn't do what he did or had the position he did,
absolutely,
I would have been there?
There was guys doing time for less shit that I did, much less, right? And even my early sobriety, like owning a gun, you're not supposed to, you can go away for that, right? And like, so I could have, like, I got rid of those real quick, but, some of the shit that I did and places I went and people I was with, that ain't freaking cool, And so, yeah, I looked around a lot, and there were a lot of guys in there, and back in my day, I was a big shot in town, 15 years old, and a few kids from out of town hanging around, and I'm pushing them around because I got a huge crowd behind me. And I had hair, I had long hair, I had my leather jacket, I was a buck knife, I was a rat. Melrose had rats and jocks. But then later on that night, I'm walking home. Car pulls up next to me, and small town, I thought I knew him, and walk over to the car and put my face up and whack, and hammer right in the back of my head. I ran. They got me on the ground. I got 63 stitches, I think, on the inside and the outside of the back of my head. And by being a punk, I deserved it, right? And they certainly could have killed me. But I've been in situations, where I had the bad or the whatever, the nonsense. But, and people don't realize that a lot of people in prison are fucking real good guys, right? And they were in the barroom fight, and they, instead of just punching the guy, they picked up a chair or whatever and smashed it over his head, or jumped out at an intersection because someone cut him off and they fucking punched him out, and there's a death involved, right? And they go to the can, and there's like I learned so much. I could walk into like any prison now, and like people in corrections would say that's bullshit, but between recovery and prisons and all that stuff, I can pick out good guys. I'm good at it, right? And there's a lot of them. Like I did. I had a heart I didn't even know I did, right? Like I didn't want, what am I doing with these people? But I can look now like that guy over there, he's a fucking badass. He killed a few people, but conversations with him and everything like that, just a good guy that fucking went the wrong way, and it was no turning back, and yeah, I've got a lot of friends today that were that guy. With the bat, with the gun, with the whatever, and that shit happens, and it certainly could have happened to me.
Do you think that's what makes the criminal justice system unfair, even in today's world? Situations
Absolutely.
Like with your dad, because that still goes on.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. I got my own thing. Like I'm street smart, you can call it, prison smart, I guess. I'm kind of a two-hat guy. But, I'm a counselor. I got all that licensed shit. I've done, addiction help behind the scenes with you name it, right? And, but the highly educated and in the pharmaceutical, they don't want people like me around, right? And the system now, they go by how high you score in a test, what kind of degree you have and all that stuff. And they put all their money into these high-tech, big money psychologists and all that stuff come into prisons. And, all my guys, all my people, all my go-tos now that are program directors and, involved with courts and kids and you name it, are guys that learned on the street, and, and I've sat in meetings with people and it's like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Right. And like, they just don't get it. And some are after money, the insurance companies and these programs. And, so the system, it's crooked like that. And I'll tell that the end of my career, it was fucked up, I'll say, but, it just like, it's backwards. Perfect example. To get an ex-con to go into a prison and talk to the inmates, I'm sure you know that, it's most places won't let them, right?
It's interesting. It's like I get in easier in the southern states, and here I've never been invited out here in Connecticut ever. Right. And I'm from Connecticut. I have a platform in Connecticut. No one invites me. Right,
exactly.
And it's it's not like I'm charging. Right. It's free. I'm volunteering my time. Arkansas is great. Tennessee is great.
Yeah.
Texas is great. Connecticut, come on.
Same with Massachusetts.
Yeah. Schools, colleges.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know there's speakers out there that get paid thousands of dollars. I'm not asking for money. I don't want a cent. I just want to go in there and do the right thing and give some inspiration, because I know when I was there in prison, I didn't have that. And I know how long of a way it can go when I go into these facilities now. Just that little bit of inspiration. You're changing lives like that, You
to go into a youth services program and tell your story and show all this stuff, those kids would melt in your hand, right? But no, you can't. Oh, no, you can't come in, right? And yeah, guys, it's like DYS, you get out, you want help? Yep, I know a guy here that will help you with this, and I know guys in the union, but you got to, you're going to have to work on attitude and the crime and the gang shit. I can set you up with a guy that, he was in the gang or blah, 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 Connecticut. He's the man. You want to fucking get your shit together? Stop by the studio. We can call him when you get there.
Yeah, the inmates don't want someone that went to college to learn about addiction. They want someone that suffered addiction.
Right.
And is there to teach them how they got sober or went through prison, or even cops that lived on the job and saw that side.
Right.
They don't want
and even the
dysfunctional
degrees. Homes and everything like that.
Yeah.
They don't want to sit there. And how does that make you feel? It's like, fucking come on, will you, lady?
Yeah. But a lot of the problem is it's a good thing you brought up the youth. Like, I mentor the youth. Right?
Oh, really? All right.
I do this. I got into this program where in Connecticut, I have some mentees that are affected by the juvenile justice system. And really all it's kind of turning into is me picking them up and taking them to dinner or bringing them here to play some video games. And that goes a long way because they don't have that. And these kids keep getting into trouble because these are unfit parents that had kids that are single family homes, and they don't care or give them attention or love or take them to a dinner or give them the things that give them a little bit of hope.
Right.
And they keep going in and out of these juvenile detention centers from stealing cars. Like when I grew up, no one was getting in trouble for stealing cars.
Right.
They were getting in trouble for fights or drugs. These kids are out there stealing cars and going to school with guns.
Right.
It's not needed. And they're not even necessarily in gangs. They just, there's no direction.
Right.
So something's going on here. And the state just looks at it as a financial opportunity because they're paying mentors or they're paying people to do it. And it's just a revolving door of money profiting off of these kids going to prison or juvenile detention.
Yep.
It's literally sick what's going on here.
Right. Absolutely. And all these kids want is love, man. Listen to them, and people in recovery, I love people that are all fucking banged up, and, I've done a lot of work with young kids, everything. But it's like the last thing they want is someone with their finger in their chest. You got to do this, you got to do that, and I'm like, dude, I don't judge, right? You could die tomorrow, but I'll guarantee you're going to be smiling tonight. We're going to be joking around. We're going to have fun. We're going to give it our best try. And trust me, you can't burn me out. I'm with you all the way. And the kids like that, you can build their trust up quick, no matter who they are or where they come from or in a city or whatever. But they don't want to pick up on that, the system. Which is sad, but I could go on forever about that, Tell
us where you go in your career. Do you just stay as a correctional officer the whole time, or do you get a promotion? What does that look like?
Thanks to my guys that started me off on respect and no political backing, no help from my father, no help from anyone other than AA, where, be true to your word. Right? You got Bob. You got to learn honesty, right? You got to give up the lying, the cheating, the stealing, the cutting corners, trying to, take care of everybody and stuff like that. So, like AA, the 12-step thing is just fucking do the right thing, right? And I was never taught that. So, I was up working at the farm, and I put in for a position for a work crew, community work crew, which. Back in 89, there was no such thing in Massachusetts, right? They would go out to the local, neighborhood and pick up trash out on the highway or whatever, but there was never a real program. And so they were hiring 2 officers for community work crew, and I'm like, no idea what it is. And I put in for it, and I wasn't going to take it, but a girl that I'd worked the visiting room with, Cheryl, she called me, and like I had a good gig. I would work doubles on weekends and be off all week. I'd be on the beach at my wife's sister's house. But so Cheryl called. She goes, Bob, me and you finished first and second, right, for that job. Work crew. I'm like, community work crew supervisor. And I'm like, supervisor freaked me out, right? And I said, I like what I'm doing, man. I'm off of you. Like, I never work. I got it made. And she goes, no, it's taking out a van with a bunch of, with 10 guys, and it's going to be painting in the State House in Boston. No uniform. I'm like, really? I said, wow, I'm going to call the guy. And I said, I'll do that, right? And it was a new unit that you different bosses than at the prison and stuff, which was pretty cool. So I got the job. I go up to MCI Shirley minimum, and I pick up 10 guys and to go in to paint at the State House. And so we got 2 crews, and I knew one of the guys who did second degree, killed a guy. He was involved with a murder down at Revere Beach with bikers or whatever. And so I knew him, and again, like, what's up, And so we brought him into the paint, and like, this is pretty cool. And I like, no idea, right? And so we had a family get together, and my brother David was there, and he was the big Republican, worked for Old Man Bush, was head of advance for Dan Quayle and all that. So when the governor, Weld in Massachusetts, won the election, I guess my brother was friends with him, and he said, come on back, I'll get you, work in administration here and blah, blah, blah. And so we had a family get together, and my brother, like, he remembers me as a fucking nut, right? And so I'm working for corrections. He goes, I talked to this guy, and he mentioned the guy's name, and I said, it's my boss. He goes, yeah, I'm bringing inmates. I want a bunch of inmates in the State House to paint. And I'm like, I put him for that, right? And we were never best friends, me and my brother. So I go, is that a problem? Meanwhile, I work for the state first. And he goes, no, right? So we go in with a paint crew and, a crew, 2 crews. And they had spent a ton of money on ladders and all kinds of equipment, and huge. The State House in Mass was a fucking mess, right? So I'm in there with these guys. All these guys had a lot of, at least 10 years in. They were going home on parole soon, within a year. And we're in there scraping paint in the middle of the day. There's fucking paint dust everywhere. And it was the first night. Channel 5, my brother called, hey, watch the news. And it was Channel 5. They had lightning bolts going through the dome of the State House. It was a all lead paint, right? And someone, dropped a dime to the press, and the state went in, the city went in, they shut the whole thing down, they shut the building. And I'm like, fuck, right? And like, what am I going to do, And so I told my brother, what should I do? And he said, well, call the boss and tell him, but we need you. You definitely have to come in tomorrow, right? And the building was like all taped off and everything like that. We were scraping. And so I said, what do we do? And he said, just go front and rake leaves, do something, but we'll find some work for the day. So out front raking leaves, it was union guys, lead paint union, all over the street. They got their suits on, they handing out paperwork to the people driving, and it was a big political thing so one of my guys was OV, was his name, and he was a real OG. But one of the union guys, hey, how do you feel drinking? I mean, how do you feel, breathing lead paint all day yesterday? And then the kid goes, I've been in the can 15 years, man. I used to drink turpentine, paint thinner. And but we kept with it, and we ended up getting the guy certified in lead paint removal. And that governor's whole pitch was he's going to be tough on crime. When he took out the gyms, he canceled all the AVO units. He no more TVs in cells, and this guy really cracked down. He was, former prosecutor, hard on crime. That was his pitch. That was fine. But he brought us in, and when he said, I'm going to introduce these guys to the joys of busting rocks, that's what he meant, right? Get them out there and do something. So so that was my crew, and one thing leads to another. We're working snowstorms, and I get a little bit of overtime. The other crews coming in, they were in a different building, and everybody loved us because they can get the carpet torn up in the office, so they get painting and different stuff like that. And one thing led to another. We were basically a household name in the State House, doing all kinds of work, no problems, right? And again, it comes back to the whole respect thing. I'm my first day, I'm like, guys, listen, what the hell was I doing, right? And like, we can't fuck this up. Don't you know who I am? Don't fuck around, right? And we went in and they gave us a break room, and a few weeks into it or whatever, I'm like, all right, guys, there's pay phones everywhere. If I ever see one ring, or I ever see anybody on a phone, you're going to pay. And once in a while, I'll say, all right, you can use the phone before, if we're in early, before 7 a.m. or whatever. But, and they respected it, They could carry money with them back then. I'd say, all right, we get in it like we used to go. I'd drive to the prison, which was an hour from my home, pick them up and drive back into Boston. But I'd say, all right, we're basically the first in the building. Go up to the coffee shop upstairs, get your coffee, your bagel, whatever you want, get it and come downstairs. The rest of the day, no cafeteria, right? Because there's politicians, there's press everywhere. And thank God they respected me and they respected it. And
no escapes, nothing, ever?
Never.
I guess they would have shut down the program.
I had one escape. That was, we were painting in one of the buildings, and there was a different offices. I was kind of acting as the boss, organizing all the crews. But I stopped by one evening. They were painting up in the high rise. The building was empty, and I went up and I brought donuts and coffee. Right, 12 donuts, 10 inmates, the officer, and me. Give everybody. I'm walking around. All the cons knew me, and it was good. One donut left over. I'm like, fuck is going on? Where is he? I'm looking around, right? And I go in one of the rooms, the kid painting, he goes, I'm like, huh? He's gone. Get the fuck out of here, right? So I went to the CEO, hey, you lost one of your guys, right? And, we set everything up, and one of the other cons gave it up that his girlfriend had been clean. She started using again. Their little kids were at risk. So I would have left too. So this kid took off. He found her, did whatever, got help with the kids or something. And the next day he turned himself in. But that was the only escape. And then we had a lot of broken windshields when they were cutting grass and, using weed whackers. Lost a finger on a snowblower, right? And, stuff like that. But there were a lot of people that, lady fell on the stairs at the State House and, broke her ankle, couldn't get up. And my guy Nelson and one of the other guys were there to help her. Nelson took off his sweatshirt because they were like family there. They were respected because, the trust was there. There was never any question of them screwing around, right? And again, I didn't plan it like that. But thank God, because they led me, right? Because, it just, without the proper training on respect, I would have said, fuck it, whatever. Your brother owns a restaurant, bring in the pizza, get a carton of cigarettes. I don't care, But I really respected the job. I respected the guys. I knew it was turning into something big. And I used to say, guys, this program can be around a long time. We have a good time here, right? And they'd feed us like kings. And, then they started doing big events up at the State House. My brother, the one from D.C., was huge and a big event guy, huge. And so he said, they were renting the building out, the State House out for big events. Harvard would have their graduation there, and not graduation, but class reunions. And they'd have the best caterers come in, right? And whenever there was something like that going on, I could have my crew come in. We'd work overtime. And I'd go up and tell the caterer and whoever, was having the event that, we got these guys from the prison, they're, minimum security, good guys, blah, blah, blah. We're here all the time. And, throughout the night, I'll send 2 guys up at a time. They'll empty trash, do whatever. And then at the end of the night, we break down the tables and chairs and everything. And so it would turn into cool. All the caterers got to know us. But I just said, guys, don't be going up there begging for food all night long, right? I'll ask, and they'll tell us when it's not busy or whatever, or maybe wait till leftovers. And so it worked out. It was unreal, right? And we had some good food cooked by top chefs, but it was all legit. It was nothing, don't tell anyone. There was none of that shit. And, we ended up doing events every couple of weeks. There was something big going on, and my guy Rolly that I knew growing up, who is, he took years off my life and he died a few years ago, but he like everyone knew him, and he was doing like 8 years involved with a drug deal that went bad with the state police and everything. But he was on my work crew. And I remember going to my brother, which I didn't really, I kept my stuff quiet, but I told my brother because he loved this kid. I'm like, dude, we got to get Rolly out of here. He's fucking crazy. It's like all I do is laugh with him, right? And he's a big, loud, obnoxious Marine. Doing time, he's got shorts on, the muscle shirt, his muscles are coming out of his friggin' ears. And every day was funny with this kid. He was loud, he was crazy, but he looked out for me too. He looked out for the guy, after the guys. And we're working a late night one night, and probably like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we're cleaning up. And I had a little office with the TV. I used to rent movies and bring them in, whatever, they're just basics. And Rolly comes through the door with this big Tupperware thing, 75 pounds of shrimp, the big ones, right? And I'm like, fucking Rolly, bring them back, right? And I was pissed. He goes, no, they gave them to me. And I'm like, no, God only knows what that cost, 75 pounds. I said, let's go. We go down to the loading dock where the caterers had all their stuff set up, and they're driving down the hill. He goes, Bob, they gave it to me. I'm telling you, right? I'm like, all right, whatever, So we ate shrimp that night. We ate shrimp every night afterwards. I dropped them off at like 3 a.m. at the prison, got them all, checked in. And the next morning I pick them up, and we're on the Sorrow Drive in Boston with his traffic cones everywhere. We got the lane shut down in the middle of a heat wave. We're cutting the grass on the median strip. And I had a white bus back then, a 22-passenger bus, so you could walk around in. And we're in there. All the truck drivers are in there with us, and we're eating shrimp, throwing them out the window, right? And it was crazy. It was definitely a Rolly moment of, eating shrimp. Like, what the hell am I doing? He goes, we're doing fucking time, right? Right? And it was cool. But again, that program there, and never had a problem. One guy that was a kid from New York that was he was like my kid, Mike, and just a gentleman all the way, a little puppy of a kid, and gang member. But I used to walk I didn't have to stay on top of him. I'd walk around the building and check on his arm every hour. And I was upstairs, I'm looking out the window watching him cutting the grass, and he goes over, comes back, takes a bag, puts the grass in the bag, and it's like, what are you doing, right? And he, fuck is he doing? I went downstairs under the front steps of the State House. I know what this fucking kid is doing, right? And I go in the bathroom, and I kick the door open. I go, motherfucker, what are you doing? Nothing, man, nothing, right? I go, dude, you know my role, man, and you're my best guy. And there was a pocketbook and a Walkman radio on the back of the toilet seat. And he had his girlfriend drive up from New York, right? I said, fucking dude, I don't want to do this, but guess what? Come on out, turn around. Fuck, we're not going to go there. I said, fucking don't even start, right? I said, you got to put the cuffs on, dude. You know the rule. You're done, right? I said, give me your gold chain, your jewelry. What do you got? They had money on them back then. I said, give me what you got. And I'll give it to, one of the other guys. They can call your mother and mail it to her or whatever. But this is my fucking place, pal. We play by my rules. And like, that's number one. Hey, sneaking your girlfriend in here, no way, right? And he tried to be tough, and then he tried to like, I'm sorry. But then he was tough, and then back and forth. And I called back to the unit in Boston. They come out and picked him up, and it's like, that's probably one of the biggest things that went wrong, And I think I handled it well, because I ain't a fucking pushover here. I would love to have anyone. It was him. He was my go-to guy, man. He sat in the front seat in the van. But my rules, So anyways, it went on, and the program grew. The work crew program, and that was around 93. They had the 100th anniversary of the Boston Marathon, and I took up running in the detox. I did some local 5Ks and everything. Not much, but so the 100th anniversary of Boston was almost double the size, and so all the barricade fencing and everything, they had to pretty much line from Boston to Hopkinton. So they said, can we use your crew, the guy that owns the event company? And I'm like, yeah, I think. Let me check with my boss. They said, yeah, as long as they want to pay the overtime. So we did it. And then, it's like, can we get another crew? And I'm like, let me see, and they said, yeah, we'll send them out. And that was over like a week period that we brought in a few more crews and everything like that. And I kind of inherited the job organizing it all, as well as having my 10 guys. And so we were out in Hopkinton at the starting line, right? And like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Look at all these people, right? That town shuts down. There's people everywhere, right? Runners. Everyone's healthy. Everyone's looking good, right? And the F-16s come over. They fly along the course before the start of the race. And I'm like, holy shit. I remember telling one of the cons, I'm fucking running this thing next year, without a doubt, right? And he goes, me too, right? But yeah, I met a friend of mine that owned a running store in downtown Melrose, and I asked him, could I run a marathon? He said, sure you can. And he set me on a training plan, and I went and did it. And that kind of put me into my whole, as well as corrections, my whole passion for running and runners in recovery. We started a group. We had, meetings before the marathon every year, and hosted people from all over the friggin' country coming in, and some awesome stories out of that. But, in that program built, the work crew program went more, and then the Jimmy Fun Walk, which is real big. They asked, can we get a crew? I'm like, yeah, I guess, right? And then, so one thing led to another. Whenever there were big crews, I'd drop mine and I'd organize, right? And I'm a CO, but I'd call one of the prisons, hey, I need, 5 crews, 50 guys, 5 offices, and they'd set it up and send them out, and I'd be like a dispatcher or whatever. And so that turned into a full-time thing for me. I didn't take out a crew anymore. I always had my A-team, right? So by being the community liaison or whatever the fuck you call it, right? We worked everywhere, right? All the Boston film movies, we worked on those. If it was on state land, we would prepare the buildings they used. 4th of July fireworks, heavily involved with that. And again, these crews, when they came out, now you got COs that you don't know who they're going to be. What they, it could be an asshole, could be a good guy, whatever. But they were on overtime, and a lot of them worked behind the wall. They weren't used to like unleashing fucking their 10 cons in a crowd of 100,000 people. But I was, So, as the vans pulled up, I'd tell the CO, hey, take a walk for a minute, will you? And guys, here's the deal. You can't fuck around, all right? We're at the AIDS walk. There's a lot of gay people. We're at the 4th of July. We're at the marathon, a cancer walk. It's like, you can't be bumming cigarettes, right? It's a fucking cancer walk. Use your head, right? And no fucking around. It's my job to get you guys some food, right? I'll hook you up. 99% chance. And then, and then I tell the CO, you're on overtime. Like when they come out here, like I got them. And I would tell them, if one person in this van fucks off, does anything wrong, you're all going to pay. You'll be up on the highway during a heat wave or a fucking blizzard picking up hubcaps or something, right? And there's a lot of events. We walk the beaches in the morning. They do, oldies concerts on weekends. Just so many events going on that I'd give each crew a piece of the pie to come in and work and do whatever, but you got to play by the rules, right? And like the CO, he's a fucking asshole. I said, whatever, don't worry about him. Worry about yourself. I talked to him. He's going to stay right there by the van. There's a porta-john right next to the van. You use that one, right? 2 guys walk that way. First 5 barrels, empty them and come back. And then 2 guys go that way and then come back. And meanwhile, they're sitting there watching Uncle Jesse, right? From that TV show that they're playing with the Beach Boys. And, 4th of July, they got to see Aerosmith. Steven Tyler and Joe Perry came in and did, with the Boston Pops. Cyndi Lauper, you name it. There's some serious shit. And big concerts. And if you play by the rules, you'll get fed and you'll come in and see that. But I don't want to, and I used to say, guys, don't walk around like a bunch of fucking convicts. You got the limp walk in and you walk, you look, tuck your shirt in, right? Walk with your head up, be nice and, so by doing that, they became respected by the state troopers and security down there. And everyone kind of got to know them. So they were always being watched. And it was very helpful to me in the program, but I was worried about the program because it helped these guys. It was very important and instrumental to them, right, for their future if they wanted. So back up a little bit. The first 6 months, there was a concert on the Charles River, a back-to-school concert in September, and there was a Green Day was playing. And I never heard of Green Day, right? They played Woodstock like a week before that, and it was a total riot. And it was too late for the radio station to cancel it. So I'm hearing everybody talk about Green Day. I thought it was Greenpeace or something, right? So, we went down there. We put out some barrels and fencing and stuff like that. And holy shit, this place, kids are all tripping and everything. It was like a madhouse at 2 p.m. So we backed up, went down the highway department yard, and I'm just going to wait till the show is over. And the captain of the state police in that area called me and was like, Bobby, you got to get down here. We need you, right? We're bringing in 2 more truckloads of fencing to put in front of the stage. Someone's going to get hurt. And I'm like, no fucking way, right? I'm watching it on the news. And he... I said, well, you got my back if something goes wrong and corrections ends up in the shit. He goes, Bob, this is almost a state of emergency. We need you down here, right? I met the trucks. We went and loaded up the fencing. We went down there. They backed the trucks in. State troopers blocking the crowd, everything like that. We're unloading fence. And they had, we called it Euro fence, but bicycle fence. It looks like bike racks. Then they had riot fence for concerts. And then we had bringing in more of the Euro fence, and we're putting it out there. And there's freaking beer bottles coming out of the crowd. Coolers, shoes, sneakers. There's people body surfing. These chicks getting their shirts ripped off. And they're like, this place is insane, right? And so I'm like, I got my guys basically, working the line as the troopers or Wizard Security would pull somebody out of the crowd that was getting crushed, would put them down right where we were. And my guys would just kind of walk them out to the street, to the cops out there or whatever. And holy shit. And without a doubt, the craziest night of my career, right? And just watching it was insane. And so all right, the band is up there playing. Everybody inside, right? And I pulled my guys back, had them all kind of stand off to the side. And the state trooper was going fucking crazy. He goes, I want these guys off the stage. They're under arrest and everything. And the guy from the radio station is like, this is what kids do now. It's a mosh pit, right? And it was out of control, right? And you tell that guy to fucking tell these kids to back up before someone gets killed. And Billy Joel, the lead singer, right now, Green Day was barely heard of. And ladies and gentlemen, the Massachusetts State Police want everybody to take 2 steps back. And he does it on the stage, right? And he goes, but I say, fuck them, right? Starts blasting away. That's it, right? Back inside. And they're under arrest, and the manager's under arrest. And so it's like they set it up like, in 2 minutes, kill the lights, this fucking show is over, right? And I got my guys all over, right up front. You can see it on YouTube, it's on Real Stories of the Highway Patrol. And there's my inmates running around, right? So I'm screaming in their ear, like, if a TV camera is near you, don't do anything. Don't touch a person. That's, And I said, I'll be on the stage. And there was a trap door in the back of the stage. And like, guys, when I get up there, and I told every one of them, run to me, right? The lights are going out, and I'm screaming in their ears. And sure enough, I get up there, I'm like, and they come fucking running over to me, up the stairs. We go down in the basement, down there's a little catwalk. The band follows us. We're downstairs, the lights went out, and the troopers back then there was no organization with, what's going on. They just called them from all over the state. And the lights went out, and that you could hear that place empty out so fast, right? Troopers came, that were coming up this side because the roads are blocked. They couldn't drive up, so they all kind of marched up. And then the ones out in the street that were forming to come in, and no one knew who was on the other, they didn't even know what they were doing. Luckily, it worked out. But they emptied that place out so fast. And we're downstairs, locked in the band is smoking weed, talking to my inmates, right? They got autographs on their shirts, which I wish I kept one. But, and afterwards we go outside, and it looked like a freaking bomb went off. There were coolers, there was freaking blankets, like people just ran, pocketbooks everywhere. And I called back to the prison and said, hey, we're probably going to be out most of the night. And the sergeant was a buddy of mine. He goes, Superintendent just called. If Balfour checks in, tell him to get those fucking guys out of here, right? And like, shit. Like, I want to stay, right? And I said, can the commissioner of the MDC, or the agency we were working for, can they call the superintendent? Sergeant calls me back. Absolutely not. Get him out of there. And so we stayed a while. Our lunches came. They had us big roast beef sandwiches and stuff. And so I brought him back. And 2 or 3 weeks later, the guy I reported to said, I was away then. If I was around, you would have been fired. I'm like, no, you don't understand. He goes, don't even, just end it. Okay. But, a few weeks later, I ran into a kid in Boston up by the State House, and he goes, Bob, look at this. And he showed me a magazine from a rock and roll magazine. It was printed in England somewhere. And it was a whole story about that show and who Green Day is coming up. And they interviewed the drummer, and it said, we had these inmates doing security at our concert. These guys were huge, right? And I saved the article. I got one. It's all blurry from copying it so many times. But, and it said, the best part about it, these guys were all huge, blah, blah, blah. He goes, they all went home at the end of the night. They all went back to jail, and so that for me, that like throughout my career, that was pushing it, right? And because I know how to do shit wrong. I grew up in a family with, I know what can get me in a lot of trouble or embarrass me or embarrass the department or my boss. So anyways, we went on. We did projects everywhere. I had the freedom to, as a CO, but I was like a director. But if something went wrong, see the guy over there, that CO, he's on overtime. He's a lieutenant. He outranks me. Go talk to him, right?
Why do you think you got pushed out then? If you were running such a successful program and you, for the most part, you played by the rules, you weren't corrupt.
Absolutely, yeah. So I could go on. These stories are so long, but we were down the river one day and we're working. Everything was going great. We were sending crews everywhere, and like we'd clean the beaches at 4 a.m., start and be out of there by 7:38 before the crowd showed up, right? I had a female crew that would come down. They'd clean the bathhouses at nighttime when no one was around. And it was successful, saved money. It made a lot of sense. It was unbelievable. And even on the Boston Marathon, we do recycling. It was one of the guys' ideas that cardboard, pallets, plastic bottles, cans, all the extra clothes that get thrown away, that stuff should all be recycled. And we created the green team. And, it was unbelievable. People were like, oh my, what an idea, right? And so we're down the river and working, and along comes this little guy with a briefcase picking up trash himself, and it was Mike Dukakis, the former governor, and who ran for president and was almost president, and he's looking for Balfour, and I'm like, fucking don't tell him no. He must want my brother, he goes, no. He goes, I want to see you, right? And nice conversation with him, and he's quite a guy, right? He became my buddy. And so he goes, Bob, how many guys are in Massachusetts doing time? I said, probably, 13,000 maybe. How many do you think could go out on these crews? And I'm like, well, other states where they take out the medium security guys and everything, they have plenty of space. But around here, it's, you couldn't really do that. But a lot, And I said, I had a proposal for a specialized unit with, say, 10 vans, all the equipment, training, everything, and bring work crews out and do this stuff. I go, but it was returned. They didn't, nobody wanted to follow through, right? Oh, all right. Can I get a copy of that proposal? And my boss was the deputy commissioner, Jim Bender, who anyone that knew him respected him, and he's no nonsense, but very, very real corrections, right? No bullshit, no, wasn't an asshole, didn't put up with asshole staff. And he knew about the proposal. We put it in together, actually. So this Dukakis, I give him the proposal, and 2 days later, I get a phone call by Deputy Bender, get in my fucking office. What did you do? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, throws the proposal on the table. He goes, you're getting your unit. He goes, you can hire 3 officers out of every academy class for the next 2 years. Post the job now to hire 3 guys. You have, you can have an office wherever you want to have it. Go to the motor pool and pick up a car, blah, blah, blah. So it was like, holy shit, right? And he made me high enough in management where I could still get overtime. And he goes, I don't know how the fuck you do it with these guys, but if anything ever goes wrong, you're on your own, right? I go, sir, you know my background. You know where I come from. You know the bullshit I put up with, with my brother, and he's a political, bully or whatever. And I walked the line, man. I learned, and I said, if anything ever goes wrong with me, you will be the very first person to know, right? Because I had to respect this guy. And because he trusted me so much. And it kind of went right down to the cons and every work crew and the COs. And at least under my watch, they went out in other parts of the state that had nothing to do with my program. But, when I was there, there was no swimming in the ocean and no bullshit. And so I ended up going into management. I had 20 years in, so that gives me my retirement. And I went into management. Everything's going great. We got the green team. We did so much. I tried to get training. I wanted to do, I think every convict in the country should know CPR and first aid. It's just whether they're getting out or not. Most are getting out, but it would be free to teach. We got academies. We got the dummies. We got the mannequins. All that shit, and. But I wanted to do stuff like that. I got as far as the OSHA cards. They get certified in OSHA. But there's so much that could be done. And we got the highway department. We got front end loaders, Bobcats, all their trucks and equipment. Why not set up a training program where 1 or 2 guys work their way into it? You could have the heavy equipment operator work with these guys to train them. Just in the yard there to learn the basics. And so when they get out, they're already, have the knowledge of driving this equipment. But so as we went on, we had some great ideas coming up. And I was senior staff, which like I got called by the deputy's assistant, who was a biker girl, who was, cool. And like, she knew my background. Very, very few people in corrections knew. And like, I'd go in and see it. Like, Mitch, she called me. She goes, Bob, the senior staff Thursday, 10 o'clock. And I'm like, am I in trouble? She goes, no, Bob, you're part of senior staff now, right? I'm like, okay, right? And you got to show up with like agenda items. The fuck is that, right? I had to wear a suit and tie. And I'm like, okay, right? So I'd go in. It was no nonsense. So it was the department head of, medium security, head of maximum security, head of community programs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there looking at these guys and whatever, my own opinions about people like that. But, I think the deputy knew me, that like, he knows I'm not sucking up. I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's ass. I'm not going to try to use big words. And so I'm sitting there like fucking terrified, right? In a room full of suits and ties, and I'm one of them. And so Mitch, who was doing notes on the whole, taking the notes on everything, she writes on a piece of paper, "You look terrified," and slides it over to me, right? And I wrote, "Have any of these guys ever done an 8-ball or been stabbed?" Right? And I slide it back and like, what the fuck? She goes, "You're a fucking nut," right? And like, she had to walk me through this every 2 weeks whenever they had those meetings. But so it was going good, going great. And we worked at all kinds of events and nonprofits. And I was the guy that wrote the policy on it. And this Bender, the deputy, said, "No churches." And I'm like, that's fucking weird. Well, it's a separation of church and state. It's like, see the county crews at the church next to my house all the time, and the court crews. No separation of church and state. So, like, yeah, whatever, right? And we did all kinds of stuff. And then, so the governor changed again, and they brought in a new governor, and he promoted this guy, Louis. I won't use the last name. But I'd known him my whole career. Like, he would call me, "Bob, I need, can you get me a, front end load of the snow's all piled up at the prison, blah, blah, blah." He was superintendent of camp down in Plymouth. "Oh, let me see what I can do. I'll have them down there by the end of the day." They wanted, the tall ships came to Boston. They want to bring their kids in and everything. I got my crews on this. I'll have a golf cart ready for you and all that shit. And like, I did that for the superintendents and whatever. And so he gets promoted to commissioner because you served as, the governor's pick. And my guy got passed over. Jim Bender got passed over, who was probably one of the most knowledgeable people in corrections in the country. And they passed over him. And I guess he was in the office and he stood up and said, "Fucking see you later. That guy Louis is not going to be my boss. I don't, And so he walked, and he actually kind of an honor that so many people knew him and respected him, that he called me and he said, "Hey, Bob, thanks so much. You've done a great job. I just, I know it's been difficult trying to fly under the radar with your brother causing, thinking everything's a fucking joke and everything." And so he goes, blah, blah, blah. This guy Louis gets in, and I go to the first senior staff meeting with him there, and it was just a total different vibe. Nobody respected him, right? With Jim Bender there, you didn't walk in the door with a coffee cup in your hand and, no joking around. You sat there at attention, basically, right? And this guy Louis in there, and they're all joking and, laughing and all, good old boy talk. And so they're going around talking about stuff, and 2 or 3 senior staff meetings in, I said, I'd like to get, we got probably 200 or 300 guys a day coming out, and they want to come out. They get paid $2 a day, which is nonsense, but they get treated with respect. They usually get fed, and like it's run properly, so they don't want to screw it up. But we should get something out of it, right? And that's when I brought up the CPR first aid, and he's like, "Don't even go there." I'm like, okay. And then I said, I'd like to, there should be something in it we should get something else out of it, whether it's AA, NA, Bible study, right? Whatever. To be involved with this work crew program, they should have to do something, and he said, don't even go there. And I'm like, okay, sorry, and I go, it's almost like you want these guys coming back. Yeah, it keeps the doors open, right? And I'm like, you fucking asshole, and 3 weeks later, I'm under investigation. I'm delivering tables at a Catholic school, which was nonprofit, and I'll say my daughter went to that school. There were probably 30 students. She had a school phobia, and they had a fashion show that weekend, and I dropped off, I think, 6 tables. And in the back door of the cafeteria, we used to go by there and shovel snow all the time, and we did it at a lot of schools. We did it all over the place. And so I'm backed the truck up that was assigned. I picked the truck up at the dealership myself. We backed the truck up to the door, and I get surrounded by a car comes flying in. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy, right? And 5 or 6 guys surround him. I knew one of them that used to take advantage of the overtime on the crews. It was internal affairs. I'm like, what the fuck what's going on, man? I know I'm clean, man. It's the way. And the guy goes, I go, I'll move the truck in a minute. I thought he was a caterer or something, right? And I go, I'll move the truck. No, you won't. I'm like, sorry, what's the matter? And he hands me a piece of paper. It's already typed out. Whoever his name was, internal affairs. This is an illegal job site or something. And I had a work crew with me, right? They were out in the street. Fuck you talking about, right? And he goes, where did you get these tables? I said, a place in Boston that does tons of work with the state and any state agency that wants to, firefighters are having a union cookout, or if it's the State House needs extra tables, they just call and they, whatever. So they turned out they took my truck. They brought the tables back to the company that I did all the marathon work with and everything. And they went over there. I guess they were following me the day before. They had me on camera picking up tables, and like, fucking who cares? There was a Boston fire truck parked next to me, right? And I get the paperwork, suspension, pending investigation. I'm like, for what? Right? And I'm like, so I said to the guy, the lead fucking NIPS guy, whatever he is, and I go, why don't you just tell me or just ask me, right? And they try to make it sound like I look for a tip-off, right? Why don't you just tip me off? I'm like, that's fucking, to what, right? Well, you're at the school. And I'm like, and during the investigation, they think they got this big thing that I'm sneaking to the school. I said, well, last summer we painted the basement. We go by this school and the school down the street and 2 over there that we shovel the snow at. Every time it snows, I don't even know if they know we do it. And so I started a 9-month, fucking, I knew didn't do anything wrong. I know how to do shit wrong. I've done shit wrong in my life, right? And I knew there was nothing there, but someone's got it out for me. And I wasn't quite sure who it was. And so I had to get a lawyer, my wife and kids, and fucking therapy for the family or whatever. And it's like all because of this little tiny school, right? That doesn't have a maintenance man that we were dropping tables off, right? Oh, the kids in the school. I said, yeah, it's like the place is huge. They were on the other side of the building. I told them we're going to drop them off at, 10 a.m. So anyways, they took the truck. They tried to say I signed out a state truck without authorization. And I said, that truck has never been parked overnight on prison property. It was always parked at the highway department garage. And, that's a school separation of church and state. Yeah, but it's also a nonprofit, right? They didn't even bring up my daughter, saying I was trying to shake them down for the school for tuition or whatever. There was never an issue, thank God, that they didn't, even try to go there. But it was 5 foolish fucking charges. I didn't tell my boss I was doing that job, and I don't even know who my boss is. Right? I'm a fucking director. I wrote the policy. And so it just started, and they interviewed every one of the inmates on the work crews. They interviewed all my officers. the woman that worked for me, who whatever, you know. But I'm like, there's nothing there. They were looking for my office. They go up to the garage up by the zoo, and like I used to hang around up there. Like, where's Balfour's office? It's on the second floor, and they're like, it's a garage. There's no second floor here, you know. So they did their thing. I did my thing, and we went in. They thought, you know, they were real quick on the investigation and the commissioner's hearing. They thought it was going to be quick, and I brought in a guy, a former cop that, you know, became an attorney, and he's like, they said, oh, this will be over in, take us about an hour. He said, well, this isn't going to take an hour. This fucking plan on being there all day, you know? And I was just hurt because I created that program. Like, I didn't have to. I'd be on the, down the Cape for the weekend or a week with my family, and I'd be making calls to make sure things are going all right. And I didn't have to. I wanted to. I didn't get paid for it. It's just like I cared about it. And so yeah, they pulled me out of there, and then this guy sends me a message that I got to work at the Shattuck Hospital 11 to 7, right? Which is the Shattuck. They don't even count that as a prison. It's so bad. It's up on the top floor of a hospital that houses homeless and all that crap. And so I'm like, there's no fucking way am I going back in uniform. I said, I got my 20 years in. I just want to retire with that. You get that benefit, and you can have the 5 years in management. I don't give a shit. He goes, no, you got to come back in uniform for 9 months. I'm like, so I work my way up, and now I got to go back in uniform. That's bullshit. That gets waived for everybody. He goes, it's not getting waived for you. And I said, you're a fucking punk. You know that? And I told him right out, I wouldn't disrespect anyone in authority, but this guy was an asshole, playing this shit. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it, right? And then a bunch of people tried to talk me into it, and I faxed the guy a letter saying, basically, go fuck yourself. And I think my wife was ready to lose her mind that I can't walk away from a pension and benefits for the rest of my life. So I said, all right, fucking, where did I pick up my uniform? What are they like? I had dark blue pants with a stripe and a light blue shirt. The last time I wore a uniform, they had changed. So it was a BDUs that, blue with the stupid thing on it, So I'm like, all right, whatever. Report to the Shattuck, 11 to 7, Tuesday, Wednesday off. Like the worst guy in the academy doesn't get that shift. But they gave it to me, right? And I go in, like, what the fuck am I in for, right? And I said, I'm going to do Klinger on MASH on the TV show, right? I'm going to walk in there and I'm just going to act crazy, right? Because I'm always happy. I live for gratitude. There's no way they're going to break me. And my first 2 weeks were day shift training. So I went in and I'm, shadowing a couple other officers. One girl, Cindy Lewis, that I was had worked with years before. I'm with her, and then a captain comes out in the hallway. Hey, Balfour, you go to lunch now. And I got to act crazy, right? And I'm like, okay, thank you, sir, right? And I go, wait a minute, Skip, get over here, Skip. And I'm yelling, right? And he's like, fuck is this kid, right? And I can bark like a dog. So I'm like, Skip, get down here, right? And the Cindy Lewis is fucking dying laughing. This captain that didn't even know me is like, this kid's fucked, right? I'm like, Skip, get over there, right? And the guy's like, and Cindy's laughing. I said, Captain, did you meet Skip? It's my three-legged dog, right? Skip, get it? And he's like, just go to lunch, right? So then I realized that's a dumping ground of some just burnt out correction officers at the Shattuck Hospital. A week or two goes by, I go upstairs. I made 3 to 11 shift, and I'd go in every day with, and have to get stuck on a post of sitting there watching this guy, Lenny, who was a big chomo that was about to die, didn't talk, could barely move, and he just shit himself all night long. And my chair would sit right in front of his cell or office, well, not office, hospital room. And he'd stick his hand in his diapers and on his face and on the walls. And I'd just have to sit there. It's on my job, thank God. But I'd have to write it down. No newspaper, nothing. Just me and my coffee, right? And a mask, before masks were fashionable. And I'd be sitting there and all I wanted was fucking, man, I can do these 9 months. I got my large coffee. That's all I want, right? And a few weeks go by and I come in and there's a sign on the door, no coffees from outside the institution in unless they're like a 10 ounce. These fucking assholes. And all the other CEOs are like, who did you fuck with? I'm like, I'm not even sure, right? So the next night I go down, I buy like 6 small coffees. And I'm out in the parking lot, and as the CEOs are come, bring this in for me, right? And I put them all on my little table there, and I drink coffee and like look at the camera. I wouldn't give it the finger, but I'd make funny faces and everything. And there's no way I was going to act crazy. They crazy right is in there, but the office is there, you know. So I just sat there and did it. I get written up, taking a nurse's parking space, right? I parked in the late night shifts parking space, and I wasn't supposed to. I'm like, fuck, come on, will you? Okay, written up. They docked me a day's pay. I'm like, fucking really? Right? Everyone does it. And meanwhile, the officers are bringing their phones in. You can do whatever you want, but not me. And then I wrote up an inmate. He had put medication in his mouth, and I didn't know. I haven't done that shit in a long time. So I was standing inside of his door, right? And the nurse come in, gave him his fucking oxys or whatever. He put them under his tongue. I said, stick out your tongue. He did, right? And okay, fine. And then the nurse says, I think he cheeked that. I'm like, really? And I went in and I caught him with it, right? So I call for help. Everybody comes in. And I get written up big time for that. I'm like, but I checked, right? He's trying to beat us. I found it. We caught it. And I get called to the lieutenant's office, who sadly lost a kid to addiction. And this lieutenant didn't know me. I certainly would have been able to help out, but before he died. But I get called in, and he goes, you know why you're getting the suspension? I'm like, not really. So he turns on the camera. I was standing in the doorway, right? So you can see the camera in the hallway when I told the kid to stick his tongue out, right? You can see my head go, okay, like this. Then he puts a camera on in the room, same thing. You can see the front of me say like this. It was measured. I'm supposed to be 4 feet, and I was like 5.5 away from the con, right? And they wrote me up for that and docked me a couple of days' pay. I'm like, come on, will you? What the fuck? And every other day, I'm being called into the deputy's office, who was in with the commissioner, and I didn't even know who this was coming from, right? And the union guys are like, fucking dude, what are you doing, right? Someone's out to get you. And I said, I know. And it was fucking relentless. And the CEOs didn't get along with the Haitian nurses. But I went in within 2 hours. I was best friends with all of them, and I'm hugging the nurses, and I bought them up, got them all Boston Marathon jackets and everything like that. A lot of fun. But I get called down again. I have about a month left, and I get called down. And I was in the operating room with the con, and the union guy comes in. They need you. I'm here to relieve you. And 2 union guys bring me over to the deputy's office, and there's a guy in a suit and tie. And I'm like, who's this guy? A new employee that fucking wants to meet the legend that doesn't know what, I don't know. I don't even know what I did. And guy shakes my hand. He's DEA, organized crime out of the North End. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Right? And I almost I knew I didn't do anything. And I've had enough, man. I put up with anything. I don't fuck with people. I never did. And I'm like, what the fuck do you want, right? And the woman deputy was there, kind of like the driving force on site for that. One of the union guys said, you're a federal agent, she can't be here. Get her out of here. Luckily, so she didn't hear what was said. But I go in the office, I'm sitting down, I'm like, okay, whatever, right? And he goes, Mr. Balfour, I go, what the fuck, what's going on? I said, I'm writing a fucking book. You're getting a chapter now. DEA after me. I've been sober fucking 30 years or 25 years. And he says, sir, I've been following your Facebook. And I said, yo, what? Are you out of your fucking mind? Right? And we're not supposed to associate with ex-cons, right? A female correctional officer had her fucking head beat in a few weeks ago at MCI Shirley. And you're following me. And all this time and energy is going into me, right? What the hell is going on here? And he shows me, he goes, well, you're affiliated with some questionable characters, right? And I'm like, I think I know exactly who they weren't, but I go, let me tell you something. I don't fucking help ex-cons. They don't want to learn anything from me, right? I help fucking kids. And he's looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, if a kid's got a drug problem, I don't fucking care who it is. If someone calls me and their kid's in trouble, I'm in. That's what I do, right? I don't get paid for it. I don't do it during work hours. And he goes, well, are you in recovery? And you're following my fucking Facebook. That's all I post is, positive shit about being clean and sober. And so he shows me one of them, well-known family in the North End. I said, he's never done time. The fucking guy, he's like runs a school, right? Well, it's his last name. I said, well, I think I might be here because of my last name. Then he shows me another one from that club there, right? Whose daughter was having some trouble. And I said, yeah, like, meet me at the meeting in Melrose Tuesday night. There's young people. Actually, I started the meeting years ago, a young people's meeting for young kids in AA. They're fucking badass, right? And these kids make shit happen. And I said, all right, meet you there. And brought the daughter inside. Hey, I've talked to Michelle and Tiffany or whatever, and like, they'll help her out. And I said, I'm not, whatever. The guy thanked me, but it's not, like, he's not my buddy. I said, you're fucking 25 years too late. And they showed me a Charlestown guy, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Then another guy from the North End. I said, I drove that guy to detox like 4 years ago, him and his wife. Actually, I bought him cigarettes. He fucking owes me money, right? And I said, I haven't seen him since. But, like, what the fuck do you want, right? I'm not, and he's like, I didn't even know. I said, you want to know about the state troopers that I've helped with their kids? People in the commissioner's office I've helped with their kids, right? It's like, you fucking didn't, you're not going to go there. I said, there's a federal marshal. His daughter was in very bad shape in a very bad house in Boston. They went in and got her out of there at 3 a.m. Well, maybe we should see if they had warrants, right? And they called me, and it ain't about me. But some of these kids that I've helped all these years, I called Michelle. I gave the guy the number and told the marshal, I said, here, call this girl here. The next day, they helped the girl out. They got her into treatment. And as far as I know, she's probably still clean and sober today. I said, dude, this ain't about me. I don't get fucking paid for it. I never did and never want to. But what the fuck do you want, right? And he's like, I'm sorry. Like, we can make this go away. And I'm like, there's nothing to go away. Don't even use those words, right? My union guys are like, Bob, you got a right to remain silent. And I'm like, fucking no, whoa, And I was really hurt. I was pissed off. I was pushed to the limit. I'm a fucking nice guy everywhere I went. Like, I never said no. If a city or a town or whatever requested a crew, they got it. Now, I didn't play politics or any of that. And now here are these people fucking with me, and I wasn't sure where it was coming from. And so the guy's like, and he basically said he didn't even know why he was following me, right? They gave him my name and my information and said, he's involved with these guys here. Get him, right? And he goes, I didn't know. And so the next day, he called me, and I said, hey, that guy that you were looking for from the North End, I heard he's ripping and running. He's in bad fucking shape, man. If I can find him, And he goes, no. Forget it. I said, I don't want someone out there all fucked up. He's got kids. He's got all this shit going on. Bob, it's a dead issue. We never talked. He goes, your file is gone. It's shredded. I shredded it myself. And I'm like, but he goes, I saw Commissioner Louie and Deputy DiPaolo, right? And you saw who? Who told you could shred that? They're the motherfuckers that have been behind all of this. And sure enough, they were, right? And Like, I had no idea why. I never had problems with them. I talked to them whenever I saw them. And, so I was about a month left in uniform. Everybody backed off, right? And like, it was torture, though. But there was still, like, working at the Shattuck, Peter Ledetto, the Massachusetts most feared inmate. He killed a cop in Malden when my father was, not when he was commissioner, but the town my father was commissioner in. I lived there, basically, in Malden. But Ledetto was all fucked up or whatever and had a shootout, robbing something or someone, and ended up killing a cop and went into the DOC. He was a real fucking asshole to every CO that he come across. And, he was on TV, on like Chronicle or whatever, one of those TV shows. And so, like, I had never met, whatever, the legend, right? So I go in one night, right before I was walking, about to be done with my career. And the captain's like, Balfour, you got Ledetto in your unit. Fucking don't go in his cell without someone else, right? Without me or a lieutenant. I'm like, fucking whatever, And so I went down there and I kicked the door. And there's a guy laying, these are fucking tubes and bottles hanging off of him with all kinds of gross shit in it and everything. And he picks it, hey, how are you? I'm like, you don't fucking know me, man, And I went in, and there's a camera over my head. I went in by myself, and I talked to him. And I go, Peter, you're the legend, man. I heard about you when I was in the academy 25 years ago, right? And oh yeah, and I said, you tore this place up, man, and then like, you're leaving your mark, and so we had a fucking conversation, and I'm on the board of directors of cops that killed in line of duty, the Law Enforcement Memorial, and like, so no sympathy for me than anybody that fucks with a cop, but so I'm talking, I said, I mentioned some names, my guy Tommy Ward, my buddy that helped me, that did a bunch of time, he got out sober, really doing good. And I said, me and Tommy, we help kids. We got a running club. We do this and that. We go to schools. And I mentioned a bunch of other guys. He goes, he goes, if I took the right path, I could have knocked that down to second degree, I think. But I just started, as soon as I came in here, I was fighting and swinging and, but he's, hey, whatever. Well, Peter, and I banged my hand on his hospital table. Dude, the judge said life, man, you're fucking paid in full. You're ready to go almost. You got maybe another day or so to live, And you go, yeah. I go, yeah, any fight left in you? And he's like, I could probably get a few. Can I give you a list, right? Just kidding. And he's like, But we had this conversation. I said, dude, I don't know where you're going from here. I got a feeling, too. And I said, don't die tonight, right? I'll be back tomorrow, 3 to 11. I'll give you that thing. I'm not a big church guy, and I'll give you the last rites, man. You're going. You're paid in full, And he's laughing. So I'm walking out, and he goes, hey, CO. He goes, you're the best CO I ever met, right? And I said, I knew you were going to say that. I said, dude, fucking whatever, man. I don't judge. You're not there to judge skinners, fucking killers, or pieces of shit or whatever, And so that's what I did. I just like whatever. And again, by saying that with him, and there was a young girl that I would help, and who was like part of my family, my wife and kids, got sober at like 14, 15, beautiful kid. And she was in law school. She ended up dying. And she was like my daughter, fucking best friend, everything, right? And, we'd come home from work, my wife, and the kids, and my shepherd would be gone. Like, call Kayla. Kayla, where are you? I got Rocky. We're up at, Kangamangas, right? And I got a call one night that from her mother that she died. Her body just, whatever, she relapsed, and it broke me. That really fucking hurt. And here I am. I'm walking into the prison. No, I'm being watched. I can't bring my phone in. I can't call the mother back. I can't walk in late. So I'm like, okay, thanks, bye. And I can't go in the office and call. So I went in, and one of the guys from Salem was in there having his knee done. And, growing up, he was from Malden. I used to look up to him. He had a bike shop and all that stuff there. And I had some good conversations with him a few nights before that. And so I went in, and I said, fucking dude, I was telling you I helped the kids and blah, blah, blah. And fucking tears in my eyes. And I got to go to one of the guys like that because there's no one else to talk to, you know? And so, you know, finally I did get to retire and no problems, you know, and the last of that whole thing was again, the kids I'm helping, as a young girl, I was helping out. I'm doing Ironmans, you know, and she was a lifeguard at my pool, and she coming in drunk, beautiful girl, coming in drunk, and like she had a black eye. I'm like, what the fuck did you do, right? And she got sucker punched in a blackout in South Boston at the parade. So one thing leads to another. Her mother called me a few weeks later to say, you know, thank you for kind of mentoring Megan, and you know, I said, she's such a good kid, man. You got to keep an eye on her. And so it wasn't even alcohol and drugs. It was just, you know, a lot of whatever shit going on in her life. But her mother goes, you should go to work up at Bill Ricker. And I'm like, nah, I'm all set, man. I'm fucking, those days are over. No uniform for me. She goes, no, you can be a consultant up there and do recovery and reentry. I'm like, really? She goes, I'm the superintendent. I'm like, really? She goes, yeah. Put together a real quick contract. I went in there. I get paid very well. Come and go as I please. And started doing groups. And my first day walking up the hill, who do I see but Louis, right? Former commissioner. He ended up getting fired from the Department of Correction. I think there was a death of an inmate, and it got all screwed up, the paperwork and everything. So the new governor then shit-canned him. He wanted his pension, right? And he thought he was going to retire as a captain, but they knocked it down, I think, to a sergeant. But I walked right in, and I knew on my side of the street was clean. I looked right at him like, at first I thought it was a setup. But it's like, dude, fuck you, man. I ain't going to say anything. I'll take the high road all day long.
Karma.
Yep. And I just looked at him, and I went in, and like, I'm just walking in. I don't know any of the COs here. I go to the kid at the you know, the desk. I go, what the fuck is he doing here, right? He goes, oh, he's a piece of shit. He's a friend of the commissioner. I mean, that's sheriffs or something like that. He's a consultant. I'm like, oh my God. And I go in, like day or two work, and I'm like, hey, you know that guy that walks around here? He fucked me. He's no good. And I told everybody, right? And I also said, if he ever walked up to me and shook my hand, I'd say, oh, you know, all right, man, what was your fucking motive for that? But he'd walk in within the offices, you know, the staff chow, door opens, and I'd be sitting there eating, and he'd walk in and like, whoa, run into me. And he knew like all kinds of people there. He didn't know if I was going to fucking hit him, say something, ignore him, or whatever. But my side of the street's clean, man. I didn't say anything. And then he had to go, hey, Martha, hi. I'd say hi to everybody. But he didn't say hi to me. I didn't fucking nod my head, nothing, you know. And it's bullshit, man. And I've had a lot of jealous people fuck with my career and my mission and my passion. I help people. I don't want to fucking... You can have the CEO business cards and all the bullshit that goes with it. And, you know, this is the second time I've ever been on a podcast. The last one was in Utah.
Wow.
And
well, you did great.
yeah, it's not my thing. You know, I don't want credit for anything. I got a fucking beautiful wife that believed in me when no one did. I learned from the best of the best, the fucking convicts of Massachusetts, right? And I sent a message to two guys today. Danny from the boxing club down in Charlestown and stuff like that. Big union guy and everything, legit, sober. They have a big Teamsters meeting so for a bunch of ex-cons and everything, and like I'm at home there. Those guys fucking respect me and love me and everything, and you know, and him and to Tommy Ward, I sent them both saying, guys, fucking 38 years ago, I walked out of a rehab. I didn't even know where the fuck I was. And I went to work for corrections, and you guys looked out for me, right?
Wow.
And then when I, you know, started running, Tommy called me this morning, and you got to get him in here. He's a fucking character, right? 80 years old, he acts like a teenager, right? Judges call him like, Tommy, I need help, right? And unbelievable. He still has money left over from back when he was in the recovery house back in the early 80s in MCI Shirley minimum. Right? And he goes, it was on the news. We had beds down there. We had fucking hookers coming in. We're selling kilos and everything, right? And so he said, this morning he said, you know, you said you walked out of rehab. He goes, my anniversary, the last time I got pinched was on Valentine's Day, 1987, tomorrow, right? And he goes, I'm being chased by the cops. I got no license. I'm fucking throwing kilos out the window, right? He goes, I had an ounce left. I knew they'd get me on trafficking, so I took a bite of it, right? So it would be under an ounce. And he's funny as hell, right? And so I said, Tommy, you know, and he loves my family. My family loves him. Same with Danny. Like, you know, these guys are brothers to me, right? When I retired, I didn't get a fucking thank you from the department. I didn't get a gold badge that the union gives out. I didn't get an invite to anything. And one or two people were okay friends. You know, there's a lieutenant that was always been a mentor of mine. He was up at the farm with me, and he was legit. He was a family man, right? And like the guys used to, you know, 3 to 11, hey, we want to make a packy run. He would say, no. You want to get your beers for after work, fucking get them before you come in. But I'm not letting you guys go down there in fucking uniform. And he was just a legit law enforcement professional in corrections, the nicest guy in the world. Everybody liked him, and they respected him. The cons liked him. There was never any bullshit, right? You know, and so I learned a real lot from him. I used to drive in with him. And, you know, when AA said stick with the winners, he was my guy. I'm friends with his wife on Facebook and him. And it's like he never knew I was in recovery. And he probably scratched his head like, what the fuck do you do with all these fucking junkies out there that you're helping, you know? And, but he's a fucking real man. He's a family man. He's got 2 kids, are growing up. He's got grandkids now. But I followed him. I followed God, I won't say the names, but a lot of guys that were in there that were just fucking good guys, and they gave me the respect, right? That thank God it started off like that.
What advice would you give to family members, loved ones, spouses that have someone that's battling addiction in their life or is incarcerated?
Incarcerated and in full-out addiction. The families are sicker than the person, right? The addict, the alcoholic, the drug addict, the guy in the can, he's safe, right? Even the young kids, they got a roof over their head. You know, and some of the, like, I have a nephew that fucking terrorized his family, and he's running amok now, tattoos all over his friggin' face and everything else, but you know, it's like the family would call me in panic that we want to get the best attorneys. We got to do the. It's like, no, leave him the fuck alone, right? And it went from a teenager, now he's an adult, now he's 35, and he's a fucking dangerous dude, but he's got a heart, but he's never heard no, right? And so many families out there are sick. This help for families is Learn to Cope is probably one of the most successful recovery programs. That definitely, that I think it's out of Massachusetts, and it's run by professionals, and the professionals are the parents that walk that fucking road, you know, and like, yeah, and you know, guys in the can, they got 6 fucking girlfriends, and they're calling this one and send me a 20 and send me a 50, and you can only visit me on Sundays at, you know, every other Sunday, and then they got the other one coming, and it's like, leave them alone, love them from a distance, you know, and this whole addiction thing, especially now, there's a lot of avenues out there. There's a lot of help out there. You know, when I got sober, go to AA and go and go and go. And like AA is very successful, but it's fucked up. It's not meant to be a clubhouse. It's not meant to be a 3 times a day meeting for life, you know. And like I know guys sober 35, 40 years, as long as me. I wouldn't let them walk my fucking dog, right? And like all they ever did in life was go to meetings. Why don't you take your family away and go home, you know? And it's sad that it's like that. You know, I kind of broke away. Running and Ironman and all that stuff kind of gave me that balance where they're running an Ironman and helping people and AA and stuff. That's all recovery to me. And I got it all put together. And it doesn't affect my family. I'm not, you know, skipping my daughter's birthday because I got to go to either meetings or, you know, whatever, looking for an out. And, you know, it's so that the families, they can contact me. Again, there's a Missing on Mass Ave page in Boston. That's methadone mile. And like so many people on there that are just fucking parents terrified. You go in there, there's freaking Volvos driving around the block at night, looking for their daughter and their son. It's a fucking sin, you know, and somebody, oh, my daughter's missing, my son's missing. Oh, everybody's like, oh yeah, we'll pray for him. And I'm like, fuck you, give him my number. Call me. You know, like I don't fix anything, but I can just give you some information. Take a deep breath and fucking relax, right? You're reading the paper, heroin, fentanyl's everywhere. Yeah, it is. People dying everywhere. Yeah, it is. But there's a freaking million people in there. Your kid's not going to die tonight. Your daughter's not being trafficked, hopefully, right? And I've done some good things with parents and like, let me see what we can do. Put the picture up there. See if anybody knows. And there was a girl this morning. I didn't know her, but they posted her picture, and like 7 or 8 people said, oh, I was in rehab with her 2 weeks ago. I was in rehab with her yesterday. She left. She walked out. So now they got a line on where she is, right? And like, I wish there was something in between where that we could kind of track them and say, hey, we're going to put you in treatment. We'll walk every step with you, you know, instead of throwing you in a spin dry where they don't really, you know, they're so overwhelmed. They do the best they can. But, you know, so the parents get help, get a fucking good therapist, go to church and pray a lot, a real lot. You know, it sucks. It fucking kills me to see this out there. And on my side, as I just explained to you, there's a key to fighting this shit that most places won't take advantage of. And that's guys like me and you. Or guys not like me, guys that have done time, right? Tommy Ward, Danny, right? All these guys. I got hundreds of them that are fucking legit. If I call and need to get a young kid a job, or a girl that's in trouble, or need a bed and a detox, fucking we all come running for each other.
Absolutely.
You know? But the system, oh, no, we don't want that. They can't be, you know, no way. They can't go into the jail and talk, you know. And up at Billerica is Middlesex County. When I got hired up there to just be a consultant, they said, okay. I said, can I bring guys in that have done time? And Bob, do whatever you want. Have them fill out the paperwork, right? And no problem. We will run a background as long as they don't have warrants. And so for about a year or two period before COVID, I got to bring guys in, and we had some huge success, right?
That's awesome.
Of helping guys out when they get out. You know, there's a kid from Boston that has a podcast. I forget his name, but he has all the ex-cons on and everything. And when he got out, I got through Facebook. I love Facebook, right? Fucking old guy. But he sent me a thank you. And I'm like, I don't remember. He goes, oh, you showed David Goggins videos in group at Billerica. And that day you showed me that, I learned that I got to fucking do this myself, you know? And it was awesome. And when I start my groups with those guys, that's my last thing. It's like, guys, I was a former CO, but don't worry about it, right? I'm legit. Just ask, right? After group, the speakers are on, they're listening. After group, I'll show you my prison tattoo. And they're like, no way. And yeah, right?
Oh,
and I got an Iron Man tattoo from a girl that's like, again, another best friend of mine. Her husband did a bunch of time in New Hampshire, and she said he owned a tattoo shop. But he didn't own a tattoo shop for 15 years. He did tattoos in Concord Prison in New Hampshire for 15 years.
Wow.
So he did my Iron Man tattoo. It's all fucking crooked and everything, you know?
Well, Bob, thanks so much, man, for coming on today. You know, what an incredible interview. You could go all day, man. You have so much
that's
energy.
just, I could go into the Iron Man and the running and the whatever,
man,
you know?
We'll have the links to all your stuff in the description of this episode where people could reach out to you.
Anything, if anyone, again, no fucking egos. Anyone wants to get together, I'd like to take on the fucking prison system throughout the country and say, why can't these guys come in and speak and put on meetings, right? And background checks, they're legit. The guy's out for 20 years. He's a fucking CEO of a multi-million-dollar rehab program, but you won't let him in. What the fuck is wrong with you, right? And that's who they listen to, you know, but whatever. I very respectfully out to the department, to all the other people, but you know what? It's like our fucking kids are dying out there. So let's roll, man. Get creative. My guys are ready. All my guys that have done time.